Hello, great people. The death of Nigeria's immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari, has been generating a lot of reactions and questions. One of such questions is, what killed Muhammadu Buhari? What are the diseases that Muhammadu Buhari was battling with before he died? On this episode of Politics with Joshua Blog, we will be asserting the disease that allegedly killed Muhammadu Buhari, and to achieve this, we'll be relying on public documents and the investigative report conducted by the Sahara media team led by Yele Sowore. We'll be using this to assert the disease that allegedly killed Muhammadu Buhari. You will recall that the immediate past president gave up the ghost at a UK clinic, and since then, people have been asking questions that, oh, what led to the death of this man? Why is he always frequent at UK hospitals? We'll be making an attempt to assert the disease that killed Muhammadu Buhari, and I'll be giving you 3 diseases that can be traced to Muhammadu Buhari, and I'll be defining them for you, and I'll also be presenting a summary of the main features of those diseases and some other issues associated with it. And also, we'll be looking at the cost of Muhammadu Buhari's treatment. We'll be trying to assert the cost that the cost of the treatment of Muhammadu Buhari, and also we'll be looking at the record of Muhammadu Buhari's frequent trips to the United Kingdom, particularly when he was president of Nigeria. We'll be doing all this and more on this episode with Joshua Plug, Dr. Omosoladeji. First, I can tell you that 3 diseases can be linked to Muhammadu Buhari, and it is believed that these 3 diseases that led to his death. One of them, as reported by the Sahara team, led by Yele Sowore. By the way, shout out to Yele Sowore, because in the Nigeria of today, it is his team, the Sahara team, and People's Gazette that usually conduct thorough investigative reporting. Those two usually conduct investigative reporting on crucial national issues. Don't forget that Muhammadu Buhari ruled Nigeria for a cumulative of 10 years as a former head of state and as 2-term president. So, Muhammadu Buhari is a public figure of interest to many Nigerians. The first ailment out of the 3, the first ailment traced to the death of Muhammadu Buhari is allegedly blood cancer. Blood cancer, otherwise known as leukemia, and that is why it was asserted that when Buhari first fell ill, he had what they call stem cell therapy. Stem cell therapy is one of the treatment for such diseases. Blood cancer, also known as leukemia. What is blood cancer, also known as leukemia? Well, let me read it out to you. Leukemia is a type of cancer that affects the blood and bone marrow, where blood cells are produced. It's a type of cancer that affects the blood and bone marrow where blood cells are produced. It involves the uncontrolled production of abnormal white blood cells which interfere with the normal function of the human immune system, red blood cells, and platelets. So that means that instead of the white blood cells that will be produced in Buhari's body, we have white blood cell and red blood cell. Instead of the white blood cell that will be produced in his body to be the normal one, it will just be producing what they call the abnormal white blood cell, and this itself will begin to affect with the normal function of his body's immune system. You will recall that it is the white blood cell that usually fight disease in the body, and this leukemia, it is a kind of like disease that kills over time. Now, there are different kinds of leukemia. Leukemia can affect the young, it can affect the old, but there are 4 types of leukemia, but 2 are most common in adults. Now, the 4th type of leukemia is acute lymphocytic leukemia. The second one is acute myeloid leukemia. The third is chronic lymphocytic leukemia, while the 4th is chronic myeloid leukemia. Now, the 2 that are most common with adults is the acute myeloid leukemia, abbreviated as AML, and the chronic lymphocytic leukemia. Now, what are the treatment of leukemia? And this is where the stem cell therapy that I mentioned earlier comes in. One is chemotherapy, which is the main treatment. You will recall that people that have cancer, they usually say that, oh, they undergo chemotherapy. So chemotherapy is one of the treatment. The second is radiation therapy. The third is targeted therapy. While another one is therapy, which boosts the immune system to fight cancer. While the fifth one, which I mentioned earlier, is the stem cell transplant, which is a process whereby you replace the diseased bone marrow with healthy marrow. The diseased marrow, the marrow that has been affected in the body, will not be replaced with an healthy marrow. That is stem cell transplant. And according to the Sahara Reporter team, when Buhari first traveled, he undergoes stem cell transplant. So this leukemia now is disease number one. Disease number two is what they call anti-intestinal disorders, and I will read the meaning to you. And in the first report of the Sahara team, when they mention anti-intestinal disorder, I have discussed it in one of my videos, but let me kind of like give you the meaning again, which is the disease number two that was traced to the death of the immediate past president Muhammadu Buhari, may so rest in peace. The anti-intestinal disorders refers to a group of conditions that affect the intestines, often leading to symptoms such as pain, bloating, irregular bowel movement, and changes in digestion. The term anti-intestinal disorders refer to conditions that either attack or disrupt normal intestinal functions. There are 8 types of anti-intestinal disorders, which you can read about online. Now, the big question is there a link between anti-intestinal disorder and the leukemia disease? And yes, there is a link. And I will read to you how anti-intestinal issues and anti-intestinal treatments are linked to leukemia. Number one is through chemotherapy-induced GI problems. I'm just giving you this thing in summary, because if I'm to kind of like start explaining everything to you, definitely we won't leave here today. So you can read more about them online. Mine is just to give you a guide on the alleged disease that killed one of Nigeria's prominent public figure, Muhammadu Buhari, which is and now we have established that of anti-intestinal disorders, and the second one, which is leukemia. And we are trying to establish a connection between anti-intestinal disorders and leukemia. You see, how did they link? Through chemotherapy-induced GI problems. The second is infections through immunosuppression, while the third is leukemia infiltrating the GI tract. So you can kind of like read more about this online. So these two diseases are what allegedly killed Muhammadu Buhari. The third one, before I go into the third one, let me tell you about this anti-intestinal disorder and why I as a person believe that that may be correct. You will recall that when Muhammadu Buhari was president, the news was flying all over town that Muhammadu Buhari was poisoned, that it is his enemies want to kill him, that they were planning to execute Muhammadu Buhari. And at that point in time, you can see that the news spread like wildfire. And if you look at it, anti-intestinal disorder. So if Buhari was suffering from anti-intestinal disorder at that point in time, and the news was flying around that, oh, Muhammadu Buhari has been poisoned. So you can link both together. You can see the connection between the news that was circulating the public space at that point in time and the revelation that Muhammadu Buhari also allegedly died from anti-intestinal disorder. And I think in a matter of days, weeks, or years, the truth about the disease that killed Muhammadu Buhari may eventually come to light. It may be revealed by either his family or his friends. But this is the information as released by the Sahara media team. Now, the third one that could be traced to Muhammadu Buhari is the one that the Buhari team themselves disclosed, which is the air infection. But then air infection is really not so strong enough to kill someone. And also we cannot totally believe the assertion that Buhari has air infection, because that could be a kind of like damage control. They may mention something very small or soft so that they can just use it to persuade the public when Muhammadu Buhari was frequenting the UK hospital. But then we can also point to it because it was mentioned by his team when he was the president of Nigeria. Now, let us look at something, which is that Muhammadu Buhari spent a total of 230 days abroad as president. A total of 230 days abroad as president. Muhammadu Buhari's first medical trip was in February 2016, which he marks as a short vacation. The Buhari team said, oh, the president at that point in time was going on a short vacation. The second trip is on June 2016, which is the treatment for the air infection. According to the statement by the presidency at that time, Muhammadu Buhari was going for the treatment of air infection. But I don't totally believe that. I believe that he was going for the for a more serious kind of like ailment. But that was what the presidency said. Now, the third one, which was when his most controversial trips began, where the controversy began to evolve, was in January 2017, when Muhammadu Buhari stayed for 50 days. Muhammadu Buhari stayed for a total of about 50 days and he returned in March after leaving in January 2017. Now, about 2 months later, in May 2017, Muhammadu Buhari then traveled back to the United Kingdom and spent a shocking 104 days receiving treatment. Yes, you heard me right. 104 days. And that was when Yemi Osinbajo, his vice, acted as president at that point in time. So after the May 2017 treatment that lasted 104 days, Muhammadu Buhari only traveled again in May 2018. And when he traveled in May 2018, he came back, he relaxed for quite a long time. And after that May 2018, he only traveled in March 2021. That particular trip of March 2021 coincided with the doctor strike in Nigeria. The trip coincided with the doctor strike, and that generated a lot of backlash. But then Muhammadu Buhari wasn't bothered apparently, because he returned to London in June and July 2021. After he traveled in March, he returned to the same United Kingdom in June and in July 2021. Then after that, he traveled in 2022 as well. You can see the frequent trips that Muhammadu Buhari kind of like embarked on when he was president. In 2022, he traveled in March for routine medical checkup, and in October he traveled twice. Now, in 2023, he traveled in May after attending King Charles' coronation. So in total, Buhari spent over 230 days abroad as president. Over 230 days. So it is safe to assert that Buhari didn't serve Nigeria, Nigeria served him. In fact, Buhari didn't save Nigeria, Nigeria saved him, because he is the one that is profiting from the Nigerian treasury to treat himself. But at the end of the day, he is late now, and I just hope that the other leaders that will emerge in Nigeria would be able to provide healthcare system that at least can be beneficial to them in the days of old and when they are sick. It's been an interesting time with you. Subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past video. See you in my next video. I love you all sincerely.